Hey, greetings everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here, and welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal program.
You gotta light 'em up before they burn it down. Better dig deep, put 'em in the ground. Blood on their hands, they're hellbound. Save us all. Ooh, they're gonna burn it down. Save us all before they burn it down.
You know, there are some topics that maybe some people aren't comfortable with. I don't have a problem speaking about things that threaten my country, especially things that go against our rule of law and our way of life. You know, it was a couple of weeks ago, we talked about this document, the Muslim Brotherhood Strategic Plan for America. It was a court document entered into the Holy Land Foundation case back in 2008, which happened right here in Houston, Texas. And this strategic memorandum, they call it the explanatory memorandum on the general strategic goal for the group being the Muslim Brotherhood, which is Hamas. I quoted this portion out of this document. Page 7. The process of settlement is a civilization jihadist process with all the word means. The Ilkwan, meaning the Muslim Brotherhood, must understand that their work in America is a kind of grand jihad in eliminating and destroying the Western civilization, our way of life, from within and sabotaging its miserable house. That's how they see us. By their hands and the hands of the believers, we must possess a mastery of the art of coalitions, the art of absorption, and the principles of cooperation. In other words, just deceive the heck out of us. And remember, I went through that list of organizations that were on the attachment number 1 here, about 29, 30 different organizations. And you can pull this down. This is open source. If you can read and speak Arabic, it's in Arabic, and the translated document is right here. See, Houston, we have a problem. And that once again, when we understand where we are and what's going on, and the fact that we just had a disruption of a commencement exercise down in the University of Texas in Austin, and we see commencement exercises being canceled all over the country. We see traffic being stopped and all these things because we've got useful idiots in the United States of America that are supporting a terrorist organization who said that one of their goals was to conduct a grand jihad in eliminating and destroying Western civilization from within and sabotaging its miserable house by their own hands. That's what they want to do, their work in America. So how do we get here? Let me read you a little bit from a JNS report from October the 23rd of 2003. Now, October the 25th of 2023. This is 18 days after the October the 7th attack. More than half, 57.5% of Muslim American respondents to a new survey agreed that Hamas was at least somewhat justified in attacking Israel as part of their struggle for a Palestinian state. More than half, 57.5% of Muslim American respondents to this survey agreed that Hamas was at least somewhat justified. The group was about evenly divided between those who somewhat agreed, 29.3%, and those who strongly agreed, at 28.2%, while 88.5% of Jewish Americans said that Hamas was not even somewhat justified. Senegal conducted this survey between October the 16th and October the 17th. There were 2,020 respondents, and the polling firm, which earns a top rating from 538, oversampled Jewish and Muslim Americans. Now, I want you to understand that. This survey happened 9 days after, 7 to 9 days after the October 7th attack. This report came out October the 25th, 18 days after the attack. Overall, Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had a 39.9% favorable and a 25.1% unfavorable rating, while Jewish Americans saw the Israeli leader more favorable at 56.9% and 29.9% unfavorable. Muslim Americans less favorably for Netanyahu, 36.2% favorable, 39.4% unfavorable. But get this, Mahmoud Abbas and Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh earned significantly greater ratings. Abbas had an overall rating among Muslim Americans of 44%. 44% approval rating among Muslim Americans of Mahmoud Abbas, who is in charge of the Palestinian Liberation Organization's derivative known as Fatah. Just slick suit wearing jihadists. But the leader of Hamas has a 38.6% approval rating among Muslim Americans. Only 34.5% disapprove. See, this is what happens when you allow the civilization jihadist process with all that the word means. Now, of course, everyone's going to say Colonel West is committing Islamophobia. Well, guess who came up with that term? The exact same organizations that are listed in attachment number 1 to the Muslim Brotherhood's strategic goal in North America. And let's just do a little lexicon analysis, language analysis. Phobia comes from the Greek word phobos. Phobos was the god who was the fear of unknown. I don't fear Islamic terrorists or jihadists. They're not unknown to me, if you are aware of that. But what this whole thing about Islamophobia is meant to do is to make us scared of saying what needs to be said. Let me read again. More than half, 57.5% of Muslim American respondents to a new survey agreed that Hamas was at least somewhat justified in attacking Israel as part of their struggle for a Palestinian state. That comes from a survey that was done 7 to 9 days or so after the October the 7th attack of 2023, where Americans were killed. Where Americans, I believe 7 or 8, are still held hostage. Let me read you another report that came out in the New York Post 4 months ago. A majority of young Americans said they believe Israel should be ended and given to Hamas. 18 to 24-year-old Americans. Now, we got 57.5% of Muslim Americans believing that Hamas, a terrorist organization who has in its charter the complete destruction, eradication, and elimination of the Jewish state, saying that's cool. And now we have the real useful idiots, our young American kids, 18 to 24, that say Israel should be ended and given to Hamas. Israel should be ended. I mean, I can go all the way back to the Old Testament, 800 some odd years, and it should be ended and given to a terrorist organization. Which means that we have a majority of our 18 to 24-year-old American kids that support the charter of Hamas, a terrorist organization. The survey that was conducted 4 months ago by a Harvard-Harris poll found 51% of Americans ages 18 to 24 said they believe the long-term answer to the Israel-Palestinian conflict was for Israel to be ended and given to Hamas. Only 32% said they believed in a two-state solution, and just 17% said other Arab states should be asked to absorb Palestinians who are Arabs. There's no such thing as a Palestinian. After World War I, when the British had rule over that region, everyone that lived in that region had a passport called Palestine. There's never been a nation, never been a kingdom, never been nothing. But yet we have young people. And that's why you see these disruptions. That's why you see this stirring up. But it all comes back to this strategic plan of the Muslim Brotherhood, written in 1991, found in an FBI raid in 2004 in Northern Virginia, and used as evidence in a 2008 largest Islamic terrorist funding trial case in U.S. history right here in Houston, Texas. That's why I say, Houston, we have a problem. Because no one's talking about this. No one's talking about how this has led to where we are. These individuals, this comes from Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas, these individuals siding with evil over our representative democracy should be a wake-up call. Indeed, it should be. Ideological rot among young Americans driven by woke values and victim culture has gotten so bad they've convinced themselves to sympathize with actual terrorists who hate America. 18 to 24-year-olds, that if they had been at that peace rock concert, Hamas would have killed them, taken them hostage. Young girls, they would have been raped. And when Senator Roger Marshall is talking about this rot, it's the rot that has happened on our college and university campus because we have, for whatever reason, been reticent and recalcitrant. Because we don't want to be called Islamophobe. We don't want to be seen as not being multicultural. We don't want to be seen as not being accepting. To the point where now people can stand up in the United States of America and shout death to America. And that is acceptable. That is supposedly fine. Ladies and gentlemen, we really have a problem that is going on here. And it's about time that we have individuals, to include elected officials, that stop being afraid of being called a name. And we have a rule of law that we have to stand up for. Because if we don't, one of my sayings that I use is that when tolerance becomes a one-way street, it leads to cultural suicide. And we're on that road right now, leading toward cultural suicide. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, Steadfast and Loyal program. We'll be right back after these messages. Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here. The question about the next stock market crash isn't a matter of if, but really a matter of when. There are just too many signs that we are on the edge of some really tough economic times. We've got war on multiple fronts, movement away from the U.S. dollar on the international stage, a weakened job market, and a recent surge in stock prices that isn't really backed by anything other than investor overconfidence. What's going on right now just isn't sustainable, and when it starts to crumble, it could all come down very, very fast. When the next stock market crash comes, wouldn't you rather be a week or a month too early rather than even a minute too late? That's why my friends at United Patriot Coin are offering to help Americans rebalance their portfolios and prepare for the coming market crash by investing in precious metals. They've always been able to help you protect your liquid assets, but now they can help with funds in your IRA or 401k retirement account also. There is a little-known law that allows Americans to own physical precious metals inside of an official IRA account. This isn't gold stocks or shares in some random mining company. We're actually talking about actual gold and silver coins and bars. The metals you put in your IRA are the exact same ones you will get out when you take a distribution. You can even buy and sell within your IRA without the messy tax issues you have with other transactions. The experts at United Patriot Coin can help you through the entire process, from opening and funding the account to selecting the best metals to put into it. Visit UnitedPatriotCoin.com, that's UnitedPatriotCoin.com, or call their office right here in the state of Texas at 844-202-7834. As a special bonus, tell them that Alan West, the old colonel, sent you, and they will cover your setup fees on qualifying accounts. God bless you all. Steadfast and loyal. Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West back here at the Steadfast and Loyal program. I just ended talking about how tolerance, when it becomes a one-way street, it leads to cultural suicide. That's where we are in the United States of America. We have a document here, and I've always had this document. I keep this document. because this is the enemy's plan to undermine us. Let me repeat once again. On page 7 of the Muslim Brotherhood Strategic Plan for America, which was a court document that was introduced in the largest terrorist funding case, the Holy Land Foundation case, 2008, right here in Texas. The process of settlement is a civilization jihadist process with all the word means. The Ilkwan, which means the Muslim Brotherhood, must understand that their work in America is a kind of grand jihad. Now, look, I'm not talking about, again, hot yoga, finding out more about yourself. That's not what they're talking about, jihad. This means fighting and killing us and overtaking us. In eliminating and destroying Western civilization. So in other words, our way of life, who we are. What do you want to replace it with? It's just like Barack Hussein Obama standing up and saying that we are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America, transforming us from what to what. So if they want to destroy Western civilization from within, what do they want to replace it with? And sabotage is miserable house. That's how they see us with the liberties and freedoms, the constitutional republic that they come here and live in. They see it as a miserable house that has to be taken down by our hands and the hands of the believers. We must possess a mastery of the art of coalitions. Attachment 1 has all of the groups. The art of absorption and the principles of cooperation. They're going to deceive the crap out of us. And they have. Convict us, make us believe that we're the bad guys. We can't speak out about it. Let me just ask you this. When you talk about tolerance becoming a one-way street, so that what ends up happening? Well, 57.5% of Muslim American respondents to a survey that occurred from October the 16th to October the 17th of last year, 2023, right after the attack of the Jewish people, 1,200 killed. 57.5% of Muslim American respondents to this survey agreed that Hamas was at least somewhat justified in attacking Israel. 29.3% somewhat agreed. 28.2% of Muslim Americans strongly agreed that Hamas, a terrorist organization, was justified in what they did. 51%, 4 months ago, 51% of Americans aged between 18 and 24, they believed the long-term answer to the Israel-Palestinian conflict was for Israel to be ended. Let's do what everyone prior to history has tried to do. Destroy and eliminate the Jewish people. Hitler, Hadrian, Persians, Babylonians, just everybody. Now we've got 51% of our young people saying that's what we should do here. How can we get to the point where our own kids, 18 to 24, are siding with a terrorist organization? When asked if Israel is committing genocide against those in Gaza or is it trying to defend itself and eliminate Hamas, 60% of Americans aged 18 to 24 said Israel was committing genocide. A view that is overall only held by 37% of Americans. Meanwhile, 53% of young Americans said students should be free to call for the genocide of Jews without consequences. Listen to me. 4 months ago, Harvard-Harris poll, 53% of young Americans said students should be free to call for the genocide of Jews without consequences. Go out and try to call for the genocide of black people. Go out and call for the genocide of trans people or gay people. Guess what's going to happen? But yet we have gays for Gaza. Go to Gaza and see what happens to you if that's your sexual orientation. 53% of our kids think they should be free. They think it's free speech to call for the genocide of the Jewish people without any consequences. So hate speech against Jews is okay. That's what this poll says. A full 67% of 18 to 24-year-olds said they believe Jews should be treated as oppressors, a position which 73% of Americans disagreed with and called a false ideology. Muslim Brotherhood has done a fantastic job. Why? Because you have organizations that are listed in this document, such as the Muslim Student Association, which a derivative thereof is the Students for Justice in Palestine. are nothing but Hamas in this country. That's what the Muslim Brotherhood is. And parents, we sat around and allowed that to happen. Let me tell you something. What would happen if one of these 18 to 24-year-old kids were to go to Saudi Arabia and say death to Saudi Arabia? Or what would happen if an American was in Saudi Arabia or an American was in Iran and said death to Saudi Arabia or Iran? You think they'd have a discussion? You think they'd talk about free speech? You think they would allow us to say, well, you're an American phobe or something like that? No. You get whacked. Can Americans go and travel to Mecca and Medina in Saudi Arabia, the quote unquote two holiest sites of Islam? No. But yet our kids believe that we can stand here and call for the genocide of our greatest ally in the Middle East and not face any consequences. They don't see what Hamas did as a genocide. They don't see a terrorist organization that has as their charter the genocide of Israel. That's not bad. There's nothing wrong with that. We have allowed such a miseducation of our children in America. And oh, by the way, if you try to stand up and say anything contrary, then you're branded with a certain label. You know, one of the books that I recommend people to go out and read is a book here by Robert Spencer. I know Robert Spencer very well. It's called The Truth About Muhammad, the founder of the world's most intolerant religion. Now, oh boy, I can hear right now, Colonel West is spewing Islamophobia. No, everything in this book, it's just facts. From the Quran, from the Surah, from the Hadiths, the ways and actions of the Prophet. I mean, this thing called Al-Hijra, you know what Al-Hijra means? It means the migration. It's when Muhammad left Mecca because, you know, they were picking on him, calling him names, telling him, you know, we really don't believe you, because he was trying to, you know, get more followers to follow him. Then he went to Medina, and in Medina, that's where you see all the verses in the Quran take a very different change. Well, I remember when Muammar Gaddafi said that Islam will overtake Europe, Islam will overtake the world without even firing a shot. He said it would be done by migration. That's what Al-Hijra means. That's what's happening. That's what the Muslim Brotherhood talking about. The process of settlement is a civilization jihadist process. They got to be laughing at us. They've been so successful. They've been so successful that our young people now believe that Israel should be wiped off the face of the map. That it's okay to talk about genocide. It's okay to openly talk about killing Jews. And see, I know right here where I reside in Dallas County, there's a huge Jewish population. And I also know that within Dallas County, in Richardson, Texas, is one of the most vile and virulent Islamic jihadist communities in the country. Maybe that's why that Holy Land Terror Foundation case was right here in Texas, tried in Houston. You know, this is why I laugh when I see these coexist bumper stickers. You know, when really? Now, what's so funny is that the same young people riding around in their little, you know, Priuses and whatever with these coexist bumper stickers are the exact same ones that are saying Israel needs to go away. They're the exact same ones that are saying that let us freely talk about genocide of the Jews without any consequences. But yet, I'm really trendy. I'm really cool. Look at my coexist bumper sticker. And when you think about 57.5% of Muslim Americans that were surveyed, you know, just days after the October the 7th, 2023 attacks, they're not walking around with coexist bumper stickers. If they are, that's part of the deception that this Muslim Brotherhood memorandum talked about. Man, I tell you, I don't want to be in a country that is stuck on stupid. But we got some people stuck on stupid. We got some people that have proof of what someone wants to do to us here in America, and we're afraid. We refuse to speak out about it. Let me just go through a list. Hezbollah, Hamas, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, Al-Quds, Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, ISIS, ISIS-K, Haqqani Network, Abu Sayyaf, Al-Shabaab, Boko Haram, the Houthis, Islamic Jihad, Jamaat al-Islamiyah. That's just a few right there. That's just off the top of my head of Islamic terrorist organizations. You know, by the way, that I tell you that we have an open border and they're freely coming across that border. We catch a few, but how many are we not catching? And who are the countries that are supporting Iran, where this current administration has given them billions of dollars so that they can funnel those resources? Qatar, a country where we just signed an agreement to provide them weapons and armaments, where we have a United States military air base, Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. I've been there. Qatar is the place where the leadership of Hamas resides. Qatar is the place where the senior members of the Taliban, that's where they were holed up before Joe Biden surrendered Afghanistan. They went back. And then Turkey. Erdogan is a jihadist. So I got to tell you, Houston, we have a problem. We have a document that clearly lays down what the Muslim Brotherhood wants to do, and they're doing it to the point where 57.5% of Muslim Americans saying that Hamas was justified, 51 to 53% of Americans 18 to 24 saying that Israel should be destroyed, wiped off, genocide speech of Israel should be protected, no consequences. These are not people that are steadfast and loyal.
Before they burn it down.